Ladies and gentlemen, we got to figure this one out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another show of Fuente and Meerapfel present Meet the Professor. Hello, world.
What's up?
What's up? Hello. Look at this.
So as you've noticed, we've changed platforms. This is going to be a learning curve today, a learning process. So we're counting on you all to be very patient and tolerant with us. And we're going to do our best to get through this first episode through StreamYard, direct on your Facebook, on the YouTube channel. But ladies and gentlemen, more importantly, we have an extremely interesting and important guest of honor that has joined us today. We're very honored to welcome Mr. Michael Herklots. Michael, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Michael.
Welcome, Michael.
Special day for all of us to have you on, my brother.
Yeah.
Sound, Michael. Sound.
I got told to mute myself, but I didn't get told to unmute myself. See, I follow instructions absolutely implicitly. Thank you for the invitation. I can't thank you all enough. This is great.
It's our pleasure.
Michael, let's start off with this. We were talking the other day because I thought that you had been born in Connecticut, but guess what? It was you were born in Montana. At the age of 3, you went to live in Connecticut. And tell us a little bit about that. How's the change from beautiful Montana to the great state of Connecticut?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't remember much prior to Connecticut. I was born in Montana, in Billings. I have a twin sister. We were born there, and my father was finishing his work to become a pediatrician. So we moved from Billings, Montana, to New Orleans, Louisiana, to Burlington, Vermont, and then to Connecticut, to my dad's hometown. When we were 3. So I really grew up in Northeast Connecticut. It's a great place, small town. Again, my dad's hometown. So a very small town, but amazing people. It was a wonderful place to grow up. In fact, I was there visiting my folks. They still live there last weekend with our family. So I try and get back as often as I can. And I've been in New York now almost 20 years. But there is still something special about going back to a small town and seeing people you haven't seen in a long time. And, there's something nice about that small town feeling, despite the fact that I've become relatively urbanized in the last 20 years. Jose, I think you're muted now. It's your turn.
Okay. Do you remember the first cigar that you smoked?
Yeah, of course. I was living in Boston, and I went to Cigar Masters with my roommate, who was really a cigar guy. I was not. And we walked in, and he got an Ashton Classic Panatella, and that's the first cigar I ever tried. Just a few puffs, but it was certainly a life-changing moment for me, and one that I will certainly never forget.
And
so thank you, Carlito, for making it.
Unmute, Carlito.
Now we got to get used to this new system. All right, let's unmute Carlito here. There we go.
No, Michael, thank you very much for enjoying it, and thank you for sharing the memories.
So Michael, from my understand, you're always into cigars. So you started off, I think it was in a kiosk, something in Boston, was it? I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I started enjoying cigars the fall of 1998. And then that spring, I was moving off campus. I was going to go to school through summer, and I needed to find a job. As it turns out, kid that lived on my floor in the dorms at Berkeley worked at this little kiosk. I mean, literally one of those little carts in the mall that you buy jewelry or candles or hair extensions or whatever you buy there. So this was a humidor in the middle of the mall, and we had all the leading brands. We had cutters and lighters and that kind of stuff. It was called the Humidor. So I started working there that spring. It got sold a couple of times, I guess twice when I worked there, and then ultimately we closed the store in 2001. But I quickly was given the responsibility to run that store um, for the owner. He had bought it, but it did not plan to run it day to day. I was going to school full time, so I had no intentions of actually walking into a full time job. I mean, I was looking for a way to get some free cigars or at least a discount and be able to do my homework. And hell, he came up and he said, you got to run it. And so I called all my friends and I was like, guys, good news and bad news. The good news is we all get discounts, and the bad news is we all have to work. So I mean, we were working like 2-hour shifts, switching, from we were in the Prudential Center Mall. Berkeley was like 2 blocks away. So sometimes we would have to lock up the cart and then meet each other halfway, toss the keys. One person would go to the cart, the other person would go to class. And we did that, like I said, 99 through 2001. We closed it in 2001. And then I went to work for Gloucester Street Cigar Company, which was on Gloucester and Newbury, for my last year in Boston until I moved to New York.
Joey Pasquale.
That's right. I actually just talked to him I haven't talked to him in years. And we talked, I guess, last week or the week before. He's doing great.
And to be honest, it was a great shop because even after you left, Jose Augusto, I think was his name, ran it for many years and had a couple of owners. And, Boston, if you look at it, Gloucester's went out of business. Who would have thought Ehrlich's would have gone out of business? I mean, Carlitos, and I think they're compadres. I mean, L.J. Peretti, Steve is still around, 155 years. So Boston's had a lot of tradition of great shops.
It's sad to see how much is gone, but it is nice to see the ones that remain. I mean, Steve is great. Steve gave me my first paid gig as a young drummer in Boston. My very first paid performance was for Steve at one of Carlito's dinners. So I have a lot of affection for Steve. Cigar Stanzi in the North End. That's it within the city. It's just those two places. It's very sad.
Yeah, definitely. So from Gloucester's, you go to work at Davidoff. I don't remember if it was Davidoff on Madison. Tell us how that experience was.
I knew, so a gentleman named David Kitchens used to run Gloucester Street in Boston. He left Boston in 2000 to run the Davidoff store on Madison Avenue. I was going to New York pretty often by 2001 as a musician. And so I would always visit David at Gloucester Street at Davidoff on Madison Avenue. And it was always my intention to move to New York after I graduated. And so David said he would give me a job. When I got there, unfortunately, there wasn't one available. And so David walked me over to Della Concha and basically bombarded in and said, you have to hire this guy. They offered me a job. And then 2 weeks later, something opened up at Madison Avenue. So I never actually even started it at Della Concha. I ended up being able to start at Davidoff on Madison Avenue. So that was June of 2002. And I stayed at Davidoff as a retail sales associate pretty much exclusively. I did sort of help create their events program. So that was really something I took charge of. But still, my role was a sales associate. And so I was a sales associate from 2002 to 2006. In May of 2006 is when Davidoff bought the Columbus Circle store from the original owners. That's right. Paul and his son Graham. And so Davidoff bought it and moved me there as general manager. So that was my first real promotion, was after 4 years of being a sales associate. So then I was at the Columbus Circle store from 2006 to 2008 as the general manager. In 2008, David Kitchens left Davidoff to accept a position at Holtz in Philadelphia. And then at that time, Davidoff created a new role to lead both stores. So that's what I did from 2008 through 2011 until I left to join Nat Sherman.
You mentioned David Kitchens, and I mean, you know him better than anybody, I think, in the industry. And it's fascinating when he be smoking a cigar. Like I remember one pro cigar that every company made a different blend. You remember that he was the
Of
only
course.
one to guess that. I mean, I don't look. I have a good palate, but I wouldn't put myself on the ring on that. But it was amazing what he did.
David's a fascinating guy. He's a scientist by trade. So I think he's an eccentric guy and he's a
Yeah.
passionate guy, but he really is a scientist too. And so he really analyzes
the door
things
open,
in a
honey.
very different way. But he's a hell of a palate, hell of a guy, and I think the industry misses him for sure. But he's
Oh,
healthy and he's happy, and that's all we can ask for our friends.
during that time, I remember there was a story. I remember you used to go to La Aurora, used to go to Davidoff, used to go to Manolo. So I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard a story that one day you were walking in La Calle del Sol, you had some jeans on and I guess a shirt or something, and you go to say hello to Manuel Hinoa, and Manuel Hinoa thought you were trying to take his kid away. So what was that deal really?
I totally forgot about that story. I was in Dominican. I would go usually twice a year, 3 times a year, and visit, Guillermo. And so I met Manuel a handful of times. But I think obviously being out of the context of the factory without an introduction in advance, he was probably not expecting to see me. Certainly didn't recognize me, nor I suppose should he have. But yeah, I can't remember where we were, but we were walking and I thought, oh my God, there's Manuel. Let me say hello. And so I ran over and I was like, Manuel. And he turned around and grabbed his kid and took off. So I guess he thought I was a kidnapper, but I'm pretty sure I was at La Aurora the next day. And then he saw me and was like, oh my God, that was you. So it was fine. I wasn't arrested. He didn't have to go to therapy. We made it through. It was fine. But what a great guy, man. I think Manuel is one of the greatest cigar guys, tobacco guys, really, and just humble and genuine. And it's great to see him out there doing what he does. I learned a lot from him.
So 2011, an opportunity comes up for you, and you're offered a job with the Shermans, and we'll talk a little bit later of really what happened. So you arrive at Not Sherman, you put a team together, you turn things around. Tell us a little bit about that, how you felt about that, the experience.
Well, the original quest of the Sherman families was to find someone to run the store. And it was called the store at that time. But they were looking for someone to run the Nat Sherman store. And so they had approached me via a recruiter. I was running 2 Davidoff stores at the time, and respectfully I said, this isn't the right next chapter in whatever the Michael Herklots story turns out to be. I can't see in my head running 2 Davidoff stores and sort of pursuing this path with Davidoff that I really loved and appreciated, to then run 1 Nat Sherman store. It was hard for me to reconcile that. But as time went on and we continued to talk, what was very clear to me was that the Shermans were not really just looking for the store to be managed properly. They were really interested in something bigger. And so what I explained to them was the ability to fix the store is not a standalone challenge. In order to correct the store and make it relevant, it needed to be under the umbrella of their premium cigar business, which had to be returned to relevance. At the time, the premium cigar business for Nat Sherman was almost exclusively in catalog and internet retail outlets. It was being sold through Santa Clara, which they did an admirable job for the Sherman family, frankly, what they were asked to do. But the consequences of that, I know that has a negative connotation, it's not supposed to, but the consequences of that decision ultimately pigeonholed the brand into a certain subset of stores that then allowed it to be discounted in other things. And we couldn't fix our store if we couldn't fix the brand. And so that's basically what I said back to the family. I don't know anything about cigarettes. That's not my place. Obviously, we had a very famous cigarette business, but I said everything outside of the cigarette business I can do. So let's formalize a role that leads that division, which we now call Nat Sherman International. The store would report into me. The wholesale business, of course, there wasn't one at the time, would ultimately report into me. But then we would course correct and start from scratch. So when I joined, we discontinued the relationship with Santa Clara amicably, but said we were going to go in a different direction. We discontinued all of the blends that were developed under Santa Clara. So that left us with only our host, our Metropolitan Connecticut, and our Metropolitan Maduro, just 3 blends. We immediately engaged with Manuel Quesada and his family, who I had worked with for years, and the Shermans had worked with for years, to start trying to create some options for what a new Nat Sherman might taste like. We immediately started working on new art. We immediately started polishing up the store and making it flow better, creating more strict codes of service that we could repeat, memorize. So there was consistency. And that was it. And little by little, brand by brand, blend by blend, dollar by dollar, it was a very strategic, slow, steady, methodical, thoughtful plan. And we had the full support of the Sherman family. We certainly did not have the full support of the retailers, because there was a lot of not resentment. I think there was just a lot of doubt, maybe, that what had become a discount brand would now somehow become relevant in their humidors at full price. Even the catalog and internet folks, when we said, look, we're not selling any more cigars for 6 months, we'll let you know when we do. And then we shared with them the new prices and the no discount policy. And they said, you're crazy. I mean, it basically increased the purchase price by almost 40% to a consumer. They said, you're insane. This is never going to work. And we said, well, it's really not working the way it is for us. So we have nothing to lose. So we're going to do it. And if you want to support it. And if not, no problem. And they supported it. Everybody supported it. And away we went.
And it's a completely different platform. You're going to have to text your mind.
Are we still there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it was, that was it, slow and steady. So the first year was just me. And then we added Ike Karapides, one of my best friends, as we couldn't even call him a national sales director because there was no one for him to direct. He was just the only guy we could afford to hire, was one more person. So we got Ike, and then we started building the team below Ike. We built our in-house customer service. We built up the store. I would typically say end today, but obviously today is slightly different. But as of August 3rd, we're sold in thousands of stores around the country. Our products certainly were returned to a place of prominence within the industry. There are consumers and retailers alike who depend on our products or have depended on our products. This is a very long answer. I apologize. But my biggest influence and inspiration for the sort of what has become now the last chapter of Nat Sherman's story is Cadillac. So much so I got a Cadillac just because I wanted to just be immersed in this. But if you think about Cadillac, in the 50s, Cadillac was the American luxury iconic dream. Maybe Lincoln, but really Cadillac was it. But then you look at the 80s and the 90s, and that was a terrible time for Cadillac. The cars were garbage. They looked bad. They ran bad. But people still drove them. And the people that drove them were these diehard Cadillac people who were they were sticking it out no matter what. Most people abandoned and moved on to something else. But then the 2000s happened, and Escalade happened, and the CTS happened. And before you know it, Cadillac is back to this place of prominence as American icon luxury. And from today's perspective, when you look at those hoopties from the 80s and the 90s that were garbage, today those are treasured throwbacks. Those are cars that are so rare you can barely get. Doesn't change the fact that they were garbage. What changes is the perspective of the brand story from the beginning to the end. And a lot of great brands, particularly American brands, have these dark moments, these sort of lulls, and then there's a comeback. And I think that is really what happened for Nat Sherman. And I'm very proud to have been a part of that. I know everyone on our team and that works for our company is incredibly proud of their contribution to restoring Nat Sherman back to this place. And even though I think we all know now that this is sort of crafting the final sentences of this story, and ultimately we'll put a period, we'll put the end, and we'll close the book. The fact that we get to do it this way is certainly meaningful to me, and I think very meaningful to our people.
Michael, that is absolutely genius. That comparison with Cadillac, and it's so true. But what boggles my mind is that you were able to make this huge change with the Nat Sherman organization, with the image, with the brand, in relatively a short period of time, 9 years. I mean, 9 years is not that long. And to elevate an image the way you did, and to accomplish what you did with all the thousands of smoke shops and everything when it was in a catalog prior, it's an incredible accomplishment, not only to yourself but to your team, which you built. So I mean, this is a great story that I think you should repeat every time you have an opportunity, because there's a lot of people out there, thinking that it's impossible to achieve their goals or their dreams in the business world or the cigar world. And you're a huge inspiration of what could be done at a relatively young age as a young man, and the things that you face and the things you've accomplished, what you've done for so many people in the cigar industry, for consumers, and just for the tire industry. I would like, one of the things that, it's always touched my heart. Since the first time I met you, I guess it's ironic, it was at a St. Jude Children's Hospital fundraiser. And coincidentally or something, most of the time we see each other is for a fundraiser. You're either in the Dominican Republic raising money for a great cause, or we're in the townhouse raising money. But it's always something. And I know every year with your children's school and everything, raising money for the schools, you're so involved with charity and you understand the responsibility and the meaning of giving back. Could you please touch on that a little bit for the audience?
It has become such a huge part of my life that it's almost you almost forget about it, because it's just such a regular part. My involvement, you're right. Our first interaction was at the Boston Harbor Hotel.
Correct.
As a musician, I wasn't there as a cigar guy. I was there to play drums. Thinking back, it was probably one of the first auctions I ever attended, now that I think about it. But I started really fundraising for my high school. It was very organic. It wasn't meant to be something that was going to be repeated. It was because there was a specific moment in time where there was a community, which happened to be my hometown, that needed help, and they were out of options. And it was one of those sort of naturally organic kind of, well, maybe I could do something, and something is better than nothing, and so let's just try it. And it was my 25th birthday. I did a little birthday party for myself, and we raised $2,500, which at the moment was a tremendous amount of money. When you think about as time goes on, you raise more and more. Suddenly, 2,500 seems insignificant, which is completely untrue. 2,500 is profoundly significant when there's nothing. And I realized what an impact that had on my community. I mean, people were stopping my parents. It was in the newspaper. People were stopping my parents at the grocery store, and I think, and I'm not ashamed to say it, and Carlito, I don't think you would be either. It Raising money and helping people is often attributed to the character of being selfless, which is lovely, but there is something selfish about it, and I'm not afraid to admit that. It feels
Good.
good to do good. That's for me. I know I'm helping other people. I mean, that's of sure, maybe it's selfless, but it's not. That's selfish. It makes me feel as good as it feels to enjoy this cigar. This is selfish. To drink a scotch, that's selfish. That's for me. That makes me happy. That feeds my soul. The difference is that drinking scotch and smoking too many cigars doesn't necessarily help other people. It turns out this other vice, that is charity and philanthropy, um, is more fulfilling, not just to me, but to everybody involved. And I will also say, and I think you would agree with me, Carlito. I mean, I've bumped into you at Emerald's auctions in New Orleans.
Correct.
I've raised money with Emerald for the last, I don't know, 15 years. City Harvest, with you all. I mean, just name it. I can't think of all the auctions and charities that we've done. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think the premium cigar industry has the greatest people in the world. But I can also say that the broader philanthropic world is almost similar in its camaraderie, where you surround yourself with like people who have like passions, and those passions often include premium cigars and wine and food and scotch and cars and whatever. But there is also this deep rooted commitment to channeling that fun selfishly to then be selfless and help others. It's an incredible opportunity to be able to do that.
No, it's certainly cool. And something that I've learned is that there's no greater gift in life to receive than learning how to give and the gift of giving. You're absolutely right. It's people may see it as selfless, but it's selfish because the rewards that you receive by seeing the difference that you can make in life with such simple little things and bringing people together and the relationships you build. I mean, that accumulates to one of the most important things that I've experienced in my life.
So many people see what you do, or maybe they see my high school fundraisers, or they see these big auctions and they say, it's too big. I can't do it. It's too much work. But it doesn't have to be. That's what I think is so incredible. And it's not your money. I raised 88,000. I think my last high school fundraiser, about $500,000 all in.
Wow.
That's not my $500,000. That's a little from here and a little from there. And if somebody can't afford to give money, what can you give? Can you give time? Can you give an experience? Can you give something that I can auction or sell? I mean, Carlito, you guys were always generous to offer, rare boxes and signed things that I could sell. It's about being scrappy and creative. And when you're scrappy and creative, it's amazing. As long as you're passionate about the cause and you make that clear, people go out of their way to help you in one way or another. And before you know it, this little silly idea turns into something that will truly change the trajectory of not just a group of people, a generation. And that's what you've done with your charity. That's what we've done in my hometown. Kids' lives are immediately different from that moment on. And every year after, you have changed that trajectory, and everyone's got a better shot today than they had in 2004. That's a pretty awesome realization. And now to know that other people see it and they say to themselves, you know what, I can do that. I can do something for whatever's important to them. I think that's so great. I think this Facebook fundraising option is probably the greatest single contribution Facebook has made to society, beyond being able to be in touch, beyond being able to network. The ability to raise money quickly and awareness quickly and channel that to something you believe in. And by the way, specifically, they're doing it as birthday fundraisers, which is how I started in 2005. I think that's awesome.
Oh,
Michael, you mentioned scrappy and creative.
that's my split.
But I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing with you because I don't think there's anybody as scrappy or as creative as you. Because I don't think I've ever witnessed a better auction here. You just don't give up, man. The only thing that you haven't done is get off the stage and actually go into somebody's pocket and take the wallet out and throw it.
Yes,
in.
I have. Yes, I have.
Do it. Yes, and we.
Michael, without a doubt, you have been involved in the same thing that Carlito and the Newmans have been making a better life for a lot of people. Doesn't matter if it's in DR or Nicaragua, in the United States. And personally, I wish there would be more people that could identify with causes, because unfortunately, we know that a lot of these organizations, if they raise $100 million, $90 million goes to their expenses, and 10 million might be that, like in the foundation that the Fuentes and the Newman has. I mean, if they raise $100 goes back to that. And I know that the ones that you have been part of, and we've talked about it, it's the same thing. And I got to say something. Why do a lot of people do not donate or think about supporting causes? It's because how badly mishandled it's been. So I take my hat off to you, and of course to Carlito and the Newmans. So it's thank you for the great work that you have been doing all these years, giving back.
Of course, man. Of course, and thank you for the support. You've supported me also, whether it's auction lots or other things. I mean, that's it goes back to that. It's not just one person. It takes everybody. But when everybody gives a little something, it's incredible how big that pot gets quickly.
Indeed. Michael, you've had, for a young person, because, how old are you?
I just turned.
Everything is relative. I'm young next to you.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's absolutely that classic evolution of the young guys realizing that they're not the youngest anymore, and then it moves and it moves and it moves. So right. So I was the young guy, right? Always.
Yes,
now I just turned 40, and it turns out I'm not the young guy anymore. So,
Well, leaving out Melanie, I mean, you are Jeremiah's a couple of years older than you. I could be your grandfather.
Yeah, but I don't look it, right?
Michael, going back to Nat Sherman, and you and I've known you for 20 plus years. I mean, I consider you have a great palate, very talented. I remember when you were going to La Aurora, looking at different tobaccos, making different things. So from day one, I saw you, and then all the work you do at Pro Cigar, charities, going out, visiting, all that. But let me ask you this. In your career, it's been a 20-plus career already. It started, what seemed to started the other day, but it's been already 20 years. If there's a moment in your career that you have to say, when you're 80, God willing, this is the highlight of my career, what would you say it is?
That's a hard one to answer. Obviously, there are a lot of.
That's why we ask it.
there are a few moments that stand out. The first, when you're really talking about shaping careers. So I'm just thinking about professional hits, not the more personal milestones that accompanied those. We went from being a discount brand, really not being considered in ratings and reviews. The timeless blend that we did with Manolo, the year we released it, was the number 10 cigar on Cigar Aficionado's top 25. For me, that was an amazing moment because it was the ability to celebrate so many achievements in one award. So you've got the Sherman family's success with that rating. You've got Quesada family's success with that rating. You have I had a personal success with that rating. And then you had this, all of the retailers who were willing to support us that first year. It was not a lot. I think we had by the end of the first year, maybe 400 stores were selling our product, something like that, 300 or 400 stores. All of those stores got the benefit of that rating when people started clamoring to buy it. So I think just from a real ability to sit back and say, wow, we did something here, I think that is probably the moment that stands out the most, because it was such a community win, and it was one that would forever change the trajectory of our brand. That gave us really something to stand up on and point to, and then continue to grow.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, and I got to be honest, I tried it. I liked it a lot. You and I had talked about it, and I think it was a pro cigar. I think it was something totally different from anything that the Shermans had put out. And to get the number 10, it's when you haven't been rated in years. I mean, it does make a difference.
And we weren't advertising, we weren't doing anything. It was just that first year trying to get scrappy and do it, and we did it.
Let me ask you this. During your 20 plus years, you have met a lot of people. I'm going to ask you this one. It could be a hard question. You might want to think about it. In the industry, who has been the person that has impressed you the most?
I want to make sure I understand the question. Impressed me meaning like as an outsider watching,
no,
like inspired?
A person that gave you inspiration, that you looked up, that might have changed your life, that told you one day, do this, do that. Somebody in the industry that you really look up to, you say, this person changed my life a lot.
I mean, we could spend an entire show doing that. So, I mean, I can run through the list. David Kitchens, George Brightman, Aaron Sigmund, Manolo, and then on we go. Sherman family. But if there's one who has had the biggest impact for where I am today in industry, is Manuel Quesada. 1000%. I don't need to think about it twice. From the moment I started visiting there while I was working for the Davidoff stores, I was treated like family. I was trusted. I was allowed to play. I mean, just play and make things for no reason. It wasn't business. It was, he saw my desire and willingness to learn. And I think he realized that there was only one way to do it. And that's to get your hands dirty and try things and fail. And so I think Manolo for sure is the single largest influence in my premium cigar career. 1000%. And I owe him everything. And even first guy I called when it was time to roll with Nat Sherman, I knew Manolo would trust me to just go for it, and that I wouldn't be able to necessarily walk everyone through a plan. Just trust that I had a plan and let's roll. And really next to Manolo is of course his family and his daughters, and niece, nephews, all of the family, but certainly Manolo, number one.
Michael, you might know because people don't have they have a lot of time now, and you and I had this conversation. So there's a pool going around already. I'm not going to reveal who I think you're going to. So there's a lot of shops already that have a pool going on to what is going to be your next move. That I think that after October 1st, you're a free agent. So any thoughts on that pool going on?
I've heard that there are pools going on. I can tell you, anybody speculating is doing so with absolutely no fact. Any speculation is 1,000% opinion. All I can say, I'll say two things. Number one, God's honest truth. I have not had a single offer, and I have not engaged in a single conversation about a role for after October. That hasn't happened. My focus right now is to make sure that we wind down this business with the same dignity and class that we built it with, and then to make sure that what will be the graduating class of Nat Sherman 2020, that as many of those people land, as many that want to land in great positions. And I have no doubt that they will, because I truly believe they are the best in the industry. Of course, I'm thinking about what I might want to do next. But I can assure you there is no plan, offer, that just hasn't happened yet. Fortunately, Altria is very, very generous with severance, so I will have the benefit of time to start really wrapping my head around what the next right thing is for me. And in the meantime, of course, I've gotten lots of calls from colleagues in all different companies, just wishing me well and congratulating me and our team on the great 9 years. But truthfully, no offer, no specific role discussions. It's all been very supportive, and we'll see.
I got to tell you this one. There's a pool going on that says that you're not going to stay in the cigar industry, that you will be have a big role in some
Porn
wine
star?
and spirit porn star. I don't know about that. Jeremiah might have an opinion on that. But there's also a poll going around that you will not be in the cigar industry anymore, that you will probably wind up at with a good role with maybe a wine or liquor or spirit company. Would you consider that if it comes up?
So again, none of that is rooted in any fact. So I can tell you 1,000%, I've not had a single discussion with a non-premium cigar industry leader that's about a role or anything. So over the last 20 years, we've made a lot of friends in a lot of different industries. A lot of people are reaching out, asking similar questions. I'm open to anything that presents the greatest outcome for my family. I'm in a very different place today than I was 9 years ago when I joined Nat Sherman, 9 years before that when I joined Davidoff. My priorities are different. So I am not so naive that I would say no to something before I understand what it is. That said, when I look back at my life, particularly the last 20 years, which I believe the years from 20 to 40 are much more of your growing up years, really, than from 0 to 20. You retain your memories; they shape you as an adult. So for me, 20 to 40 has been a incredibly important time, and there isn't a meaningful thing in my life, a person, a place, or a thing that I can't trace back to my involvement in the premium cigar industry. There's none of it. Anything that I have meaningful in my life that's not related to cigars happened before I'm 20. And those are just a handful of things, handful of people, handful of memories. The stuff that is the most important to me that I have been blessed with is because of my involvement in this industry and the people that I've met along the way. So my first choice will be to remain in the premium cigar industry. I feel like the industry has been wonderful to me, and I've helped participate in the industry. I think the next 20 years will give me an opportunity to advocate for the industry in a way that I have not been permitted to for the last few years. So I'm very eager to stay in, and I am committed to advocating for the industry that's been so good for me, so good to me.
Yes,
Very
that's
good.
awesome.
Michael, the FDA had a ruling now, and even though a lot of people are celebrating, I was on a show on Friday on Cigar Dojo, and I was asked the question. I think it's we won a battle, but we haven't won the war. We will have to stick together. And I said on the show, a lot of people have to forget about their egos and things like that, and we have to unite and continue fighting. We could not be reactive. We have to be proactive. So I would like to hear your thoughts on the ruling of the FDA, if you agree that we just won a battle, but we haven't won the war.
I agree with the statement. I don't even know if we won the battle. We certainly have not won the war. But what we do have for the first time in a long time is some level of certainty. What we've lacked these last years is certainty, clarity, and that breeds chaos and fear and anxiety. And you cannot grow a business, certainly can't grow an industry when you are paralyzed with conditions like fear and uncertainty, and lack of clarity. What I think is very important here is that it has set some real solid bedrock for us to now start walking on. The most important of which I think is the fact that a premium cigar has now been defined. Whether you agree with the definition or not doesn't entirely matter. The point is that the FDA has a criteria that it's recognized. That is something that I think we've all dreamed of. It's not perfect. There are things that are excluded that some people want in. But nevertheless, I think the places where the most people align are represented in that definition. And I think that is probably the single most exciting piece of all of this. It, of course, I think this judge has been very fair throughout this process, and I think he's done an admirable job of clarifying what matters to the case. He's gone out of his way to explicitly tell the FDA what they need to do, and to explicitly tell the premium cigar industry what they need to do. So without favoritism, total fairness, saying this is the message you need to deliver, this is the message you need to. The good news is, I think, that FDA failed to do what the judge asked, and the premium cigar industry did precisely what the judge asked. And as a result, this premium cigar industry received the favorability of the judge's call. And it seems now that the burden to move things forward rests solely now on the FDA providing the evidence for the argument to regulate. So now I think it's shifted really 180 degrees, which frankly is the argument we've made as an industry all along. One size fits all does not apply. Premium cigars are different. These are some of the ways that they're different. Testing, there's no scientific methodology. So how could we test in the first place? Substantial equivalence, we can all agree, is not relevant because we all agree that inherently all premium cigars are the same. And ultimately, if the FDA is willing to continue to kick the can down the road while it focuses on other things that are more pressing priorities, that is another way of saying that premium cigars do not pose a significant enough health risk to the general population that it should be elevated. So I think the FDA has now made our case for us and has reaffirmed everything that the premium cigar industry and its advocates have said for certainly the last 10 years. And I think we're in a good place. The problem is there will always be more money and more opposition against tobacco and nicotine broadly. Premium cigars will always be stuck within the category among those who don't bother to learn the difference or don't care to learn the difference. And so we will always have battles to fight. And that's just a fact. But I do think this last decision by Judge Mehta will make some of those battles easier moving forward.
Definitely. I will, since this came out and a lot of our followers have not heard Carlito's thoughts, even though he was on the show this week. Carlito, I would like for you to throw in your 2 cents. I already gave him my 2 cents, and I agree with Michael. I think we all have to stick together more now than ever, put aside egos and agendas, because if not, we have a great opportunity now. So I would like to hear from you, Carlito, on this.
Well, I totally agree with every single word that Michael said. One thing that I've learned is that maybe 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago, it was being on the father's desk and watching my father, calling accounts or trying to see if someone would pay him before the 30 days and so forth to make payroll. Maybe it was longer than that, more years ago, but that was the cigar industry. And it was a business to feed our families, to hopefully have a better life. And everybody worked around the clock. But we were not involved in politics at all. And I never wanted anything to do with politics. I've always stayed away. But one thing that I think that I've learned from this process, more importantly from my children who are younger and they're still developing their education and their lives, is that it's necessary. I think about Jeff Borsowitz. He said this not too long ago, who I have the highest admiration for. He's one of the superheroes in our industry, as Michael is. And he says, you have to be involved with politics. And we never spend the money. We never had lobbyists. When I'm saying we, I'm saying about the small family businesses. And it's so important. So I think we've gotten breathing room. It's almost like, the antibiotics that kicked in and the fever's gone, but you're going to get a flu the next year again. And we have to be prepared and be proactive, as you said, Jose. I'm sorry, Jose. I don't mean to disrespect you. The professor, Mr. Professor. But seriously, I see things that I feel so happy about. Is that I really believe that if it's not for the Jeff Borsowitz, if it's not for the Michael Herklots, if it's not for the Dr. Gabi Coffee, if it's not for all the small, if it's not for the Lito Gomez that had an opportunity in the 1990s that come in and make such an impact in this industry, all of them, if it's not for the small family businesses or the entrepreneurs with a love and passion for a cigar that wants to create their own art, their own world, their own music. If we shut their doors, it is the beginning of the end of the world that we love so much, of premium cigars, of the creativity, of the competition. Competition is good. It's good. It's like playing baseball. I'm sure Pedro Martinez for Boston against the Yankees. I know that you are Yankee guys and everything, but Pedro Martinez was not that big. I know him personally. And the first pitch, I guarantee you, go near your jaw, your ear. And he wasn't afraid, but it was competition. But after that, they would go out and have beers. They would have champagne. They would smoke a cigar together. And that's what the cigar industry is all about. We're all one family. But the greatest satisfaction I've gotten, first of all, the most important thing to me in this entire process with the warning labels, my world is about the art, the heritage, the paying respect to tradition. It's all these stories that are represented in art of the cigar industry that goes back centuries. And to me, accomplishing that judgment to me was the most important thing. Substantial equivalent that we're going to live with it or live without and everything. Of course, we fought because we know it's wrong, and we're probably the most. We're the most abused minority as cigar lovers that exist. And seeing these families that have an opportunity to be able to continue and the hopes and everything, it brightens the day for the future, for my children, to be able to create. And I really believe, I like to make the comparison, just as Michael did with the Cadillac, that I will always remember that. I like to make a comparison. You know, we all know South Florida, and you see Brickell Avenue, how it's grown and so forth. And every architect is trying to outdo themselves to make the most elaborate, fancy, creative structure building with everything. What good is it going to do you to own the penthouse in the most beautiful, elaborate building with all the slips in the back for the biggest mega yachts when you're the only tenant in the building? Who's going to turn off the light? Who's going to pay for the valet? We need to strengthen our neighborhood so we can be all one happy family. We've been given an opportunity to forget the past and work together as a future. And I hope if there's people listening and everything, just come and get together, get involved. It's not only money. It's like Michael said, it's time. It's a letter. Michael's one of the most eloquent persons I've met in my life. And I don't have the way to express myself or the education, or I don't see myself as someone that could really speak for the industry. Michael can. Even if Michael didn't give one penny, he will continue to advocate for the cigar industry. And Michael, I just want to tell you, as a friend, as someone who's admired you since the first day I met you. And the reason I admired you because you were moving your hands so damn quick, and I said, this guy's pretty damn good looking and slick as hell. I went to the drummer right away. I think you remember that. But I know that whether hopefully you will stay in the cigar industry. That would be my personal wish. Somehow, and that you're family and you're able to accomplish all your dreams and continue to grow. Because no matter where you grow, how you grow, you contribute and you drop fruit and seeds that it feeds the entire industry, and everyone loves cigars. But if you're in the food industry, or you're in the wine industry or spirit industry, I've been with you at Emeralds. I know that you're incredible with tasting. I know you're incredible with pairing. I know how you work. I know how you work the crowd. You will be great at anything you do. You will be a contribution, and you will continue to amaze me. You will continue to make me proud of you. And I have no doubt that you will continue to be an advocate and promoter of cigars, promote and do what you've always done. Sell love. And that's what we're all here for. So I just want to say that, brother. I appreciate
that.
I want to say this because it meant so much to me that I didn't know if you would accept this invitation, be on our show. Well, actually, it's the Professor's show. And I really think, I know you're very busy. You're being called from everywhere, but it means a lot to me that you would accept this invitation. And I just want to say thank you, my friend.
It means more to me that you would extend it. So this is great. And Sundays are family days. It feels like a family hang. Go ahead, Melanie. Sorry.
Well, now before was day and night. Now you know what our group does on Sundays. Every Sunday we're still working. We're still spreading the love of cigars. But it's beautiful.
All right. So before we get Melanie on, Melanie, let's try out our new banner for Melanie's hotspot. Let's see if this works. Yay! It works.
Nice.
All right, Michael, you're in the hot spot.
The hot spot. I love it.
This is all you, Melanie.
All right. So, well, first I want to say that the other thing that I think Mel brings, which is one of my favorite things, is laughter. He is got quite the charming sense of humor and witty. So I suppose my question for you, I have lots of questions actually. I've been thinking about this all week, but I would say that what I was saying, I wanted to ask what been your most favorite part of what you have done, and then what is the thing that you're actually ready to not be doing and move on from?
Melanie, you're reminding me of the robot in Lost in Space. I don't hear you.
Hang on, I think I heard the question. What was my favorite part of my job? Meaning my favorite thing that I've done, is that what you mean?
Yes. Yes. Like, what is the favorite thing that you've done? And what's also the thing that you're ready to move on from? Like, the one you're like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not going to have to do that anymore.
That's weird. That is so weird.
The favorite thing that I have done is really to have spent so much time in the product development and the product maintenance. I mean, I loved retail. I still love retail. I love doing events. I love leading teams. All of those things have been great. But being able to start with leaves and put them together in a way that often fails, and then becoming frustrated with that process and tweaking until you can start to develop balance and strength and flavor and aroma and combustion. And then when you do it once, you try and make the same thing over and it doesn't work. And then you have to figure out why it doesn't work. That really has been a huge added value to my life, to be able to do that. And then, of course, that sort of umbrellas the whole working with manufacturers, spending more time on the farms, just learning more about tobacco from an agricultural standpoint, and then from a blending standpoint. That is just been a major plus to my life. I am probably not going to miss commuting into New York City. And I didn't think that was going to be the case. I thought I was going to be devastated. But just given the state of the city right now, it's just different. It's changed. And, for me to find a way to not have to go to the city every day, sounds pretty okay with me. So I'm okay to say goodbye to the New York City commute and traffic for a while.
All right. Great. Well, so you can spend more time with your family too.
Let's hope. Or more time in my backyard.
All right. Now that the professor stopped talking, I'm gonna slip you a question, Michael. Are you okay with that?
Of course.
All right. Michael, you're not a newbie in the industry. You've become an icon. You've become someone people look up to. You're respected. You're a gentleman. What would you advise, with your experience now, someone who would enter the industry? What would be your 2 cents advice?
Man, typically my punchline is find something else to do. But that's just not true. What I would say, though, is you need to answer the question, why? So if you say, I want to be in the premium cigar business, you need to defend it and say why. And then you need to list all the reasons that you want to be in the business. And then I think you need to scrutinize those answers with other options. So let's say you love interacting with people, you love selling, you love smoking cigars. What other options are there for you that could achieve the things that you want outside of the industry? And then I think you need to list those options, and then you need to weigh them. Because as Carlito said earlier, this industry is unfairly targeted and abused. We are regulated and taxed with no basis. People balance budgets on fake numbers that they think an increase in OTP will achieve, knowing that it won't. But yet it's easier to do that because there aren't enough of us to make it a problem. And so we constantly get punched in the face and kicked in the knee because it's difficult for us to compete. But after you do all that and you make your lists and you answer the questions why, if you can imagine yourself in any of those other industries, do one of the other ones. But if when you go to bed every night, you realize that there is no other industry that would bring you the same level of joy and fulfillment, then I would say you go full steam ahead. And then my recommendation is you are welcome to set your goal as high as possible, but you can't skip the steps to get to the top rung of the ladder. You just can't. You might be able to climb the ladder quicker,
Yep.
but you can't just get to the top. And I think the failures we
Yep.
see, particularly over the last 20 years, 25 years, the companies that failed quickly, or the people who were in the business and left, not all, because some left because they wanted to. I think a lot of those failures came from self-serving as opposed to industry-serving efforts. I think they were about climbing to the top on the heads of others instead of trying to make sure that we all get to the top in one way or another. I would encourage that person to make sure that they realize they can get to their dream job, dream position, but it's not going to be today. And so you are signing up for a tour of duty that will inevitably get you to where you want to be. But that is going to take a tremendous amount of time and a tremendous amount of energy and a tremendous amount of frustration. And you have to trust that it's right. And then you surround yourself with the people who you admire. You surround yourself with the people who are going to be honest. Surround yourself with the people who are going to tell you, you need to stop talking because you don't know what you're talking about and you need to listen, which I was told endlessly by Manolo and by David Kitchens and by Avo and by Carlito and by Jose Blanco. And these are people who cared about me enough to say, stop and listen, go talk to this guy and go learn something. It takes that type of leadership. But I believe that anyone who wants to be successful in this industry will be successful in the industry. They just have to do it thoughtfully, and they have to do it methodically, and they have to do it humbly and with respect for the people who've done it before. And then, quite frankly, I think it is also incumbent upon all of us who have had the good fortune of making a living in this industry to remember to turn around and lift those people up. That we don't see new people coming to the industry as a threat. We look to them as the future. And it's going to take them to continue on the work we've done. And so we have to be able to turn around, identify those people who are truly, genuinely willing to give the time and the energy and the passion. And then we need to pick them up and give them every shot at success.
Amen, my brother. Oh, true.
Truth.
Well, I think it's
And gratitude.
it's across the board. Michael, this has been an unbelievable moment. I think everybody here around the table is humbled, and we're very impressed. And we've had at least I've had an unbelievable discovering. We haven't had so much time in the past to get to know each other. And over the last hour and 15 minutes, I've discovered a very sensitive, intelligent gentleman that I really want to get to know more of. There is no question about that. But in the meantime, it is that time of the day that we're going to have to call it a day. And on behalf of everybody, I'd like to, from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show today and opening up your book to us and to everybody else. And hopefully we'll be able to have you on very, very, very soon again. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Herklots.
Thank you guys so much for having me. What you're doing here every
Thank you
weekend,
so much.
it's incredible. You should be really proud of this. I know you all are. But everyone keep watching. There's a lot of great stories coming up.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
That's for sure.
Professor,
We're looking forward to
what's
hearing
on
your
for
future
next
story
Sunday?
as well.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank Michael, and I know everybody here is a big fan. I've known Michael, like I said, 20 plus years. I think what he said about people getting into the industry made me think a lot about a lot of people that we've seen come and go. And I think that from a young person that's been very talented with a lot of passion that proved himself at Nat Sherman, it's really sad to see 90 years of family that fought a lot for taxations and smoking bans and against the FDA just go away. But Michael, thank you very much for having us. And next week, we're going to have a person who will have a lot to talk about with the recent events we've had with the FDA. That's going to be Mr. Glenn Luke from the CRA. And we invite everybody to be on our show, Meet the Professor, next week. And I think that Glenn will enlighten us a lot about all the years he put through this. And I was talking to him a couple of days ago, and I told him he must feel very happy, very satisfied with that. But again, Michael, thank you very much for the invitation. I don't know what bet I'm going to take on, even though I told you on that pool I'm going to make $100 bet to see where you're going to go. But I'm not going to go on the one that you're going to be out of the industry and go into a liquor company. So I'm going to take a safe bet on that one, and I'm going to place $100 that you're going to stay in the industry.
I think that's definitely a safe bet.
We all hope so. That's for sure. There's no question about it.
Well, thank you guys. Appreciate all your support. Really.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Fuente and Meerapfel present Meet the Professor Nerd. Tune in next week. Glenn, Professor just presented him. He's going to be on the show. It's going to be amazing. We're going to have a lot of inside information about all of the legal and public relations and everything else that goes on around the world, and specifically in the United States and in Washington, D.C. And it's going to be a very interesting show. But in the meantime, please take care of yourselves and of others. And until then, next week, be well. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Love to all.
Love to you guys, man.
Bye-bye.